Very good morning to you. I'm Jim Sciutto.
And I'm Poppy Harlow in New York. So glad you're with us this morning. The nomination process for the Supreme Court nominee, Judge Kavanaugh, is upended again. The California professor who accuses him of sexually assaulting her when both were in high school in the 80s is now telling the Senate Judiciary Committee she is not prepared to testify on Monday after all. Lawyers that represent Christine Blasey Ford say they want an independent investigation before any Senate hearing. But last night, one of those lawyers seemed to acknowledge on CNN that Ford herself needs some time. Listen to this.
Since coming forward, her life has been turned upside down. And rushing forward into a hearing when she's under this much pressure isn't the way to do it.
Senate Democrats are backing Ford's request, but overnight a critical GOP swing vote implored, he used that word, implored Kavanaugh's accuser to take the opportunity that she's been given. Jeff Flake writing that in either a public or private setting, the committee should hear her voice. We may hear from President Trump on this and other issues in just minutes. He's heading to North Carolina to survey flood damage there a day after lamenting the toll of the Ford allegations on Kavanaugh and complaining that Democrats just like to obstruct and resist. We'll be listening if he stops to speak with reporters, as he often does. In the meantime, let's bring in our Manu Raju. He's on Capitol Hill. So Manu, just lightning fast developments last night, this morning. Are Republicans that you've spoken to insisting on going forward with this Monday date and a vote next week, despite Ford now saying she won't appear then?
Republicans are pushing forward for a vote next week, no matter what happens with Dr. Ford, whether or not she shows up to Monday's hearing. And it's still an open question what exactly happens with that Monday hearing if she does not show up. But nevertheless, Republicans came out yesterday on the Senate Judiciary Committee making it very clear that she and her attorney would not dictate the terms of exactly what would happen. So they are very clear that they're moving forward, and they're getting some support from some key members. You mentioned Jeff Flake, but also Bob Corker, the Tennessee Republican senator who had raised some serious concerns about these allegations and had been eager to hear this testimony. He said in a tweet yesterday after that letter had emerged from Ford's lawyer, he said, after learning of the allegation, Chairman Chuck Grassley took immediate action to ensure both Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh have the opportunity to be heard in public or private. Republicans extended a hand in good faith. If we don't hear from both sides on Monday, let's vote. Now, similarly, I talked to Senator Lisa Murkowski, who's one of the key Republican senators who could determine whether or not Kavanaugh gets this lifetime seat. Before this letter came out, I asked her about whether or not the FBI investigation should be reopened before this hearing takes place, as Democrats and as now Ford is demanding. This is what Murkowski said.
I think that an allegation has been made by Dr. Ford. I think her story deserves to be heard, and the committee process has been made available to her.
So it's a sign that she wants the hearing to take place, not necessarily agree with this effort to reopen the FBI background check. So the question now is back to whether or not Dr. Ford will agree to this process, talk to the Judiciary Committee in private, then a public meeting. We still don't know. Of course, a lot can change, as we've seen over the last several days here, Jim and Poppy.
No question. Manu Raju on the Hill, thanks very much. Joining us now is Senator John Kennedy. He's a Republican of the state of Louisiana. Crucially, he's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who, of course, is considering Kavanaugh's nomination. Senator Kennedy, thanks so much for taking the time with us this morning.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So on this issue, and granting it is a difficult one. It's a difficult one for all involved. You said just yesterday in an interview, quote, I want to hear her side of the story. You also said that if the allegations are credible, it would affect your vote. Should Monday, in your view, be Ford's only chance to testify as to her account in public?
Well, I don't have enough information to make that decision. I don't have any information at all. Everything I know about this, I've read in the media or seen in the media, and I'm not saying the media is wrong. I'm just saying that I'm a United States senator. My people elected me to make a decision, and I need facts and evidence to make that decision. I'm a little more sanguine than some. I think there's a reasonable possibility that Dr. Ford will attend the hearing on Monday. I mean, if you put this in context, originally she wanted to remain anonymous. Then Dr. Ford changed her mind. I understand she actually called and reached out to the Washington Post, and either she or somebody on her behalf leaked her letter to the New Yorker. Next, she asked for a public hearing. Last night, I understand she changed her mind. But I think there's a reasonable possibility she'll change her mind yet again. We're scheduled to meet 10 o'clock. I blocked out on my calendar from 10 o'clock to 5 p.m., and I'll stay as late as everybody wants to. It's room 216, Phillip Hart Building. And I'm looking forward to hearing from her. Now, if she doesn't want to come, that's her call. If she's uncomfortable doing it in a public hearing, I think it would be a mistake. I think the American people need to hear from both Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh and be able to judge for themselves. But if she wants to do it privately, we can do it privately.
Let me ask you this, because her lawyer laid out the possibility, I don't know if it's correct to call it a condition, but she said that Ford would like an investigation, an independent investigation, possibly by the FBI before coming before a Senate panel. Do you think that that is a reasonable request, and would you, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, be willing to allow her that request?
Well, let me make a couple of points. Number one, I don't have the information to make that request. I've never even seen her letter. As you know, Senator Feinstein did not forward a copy to the rest of us. Number two, I note that Dr. Ford, as is her right, she has changed lawyers. And so I don't know if the current position is a result of her new lawyer or it's a change in what's the word I'm looking for, an approach.
She has a team. Excuse me, Senator. Just to jump in,
sure.
she has a team of attorneys. Katz is one who we first heard from. Then we heard from one of her colleagues. I believe it's the same law firm. But I'm wondering, that doesn't seem germane to Jim's
point, though, Poppy. Can I make my
Jim's
third
question
point?
is, should the FBI investigate?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I heard it. Let me make my third point. My third point is that as a United States Senator, and I think we're all in this situation, all 100 of us, you've got to have some evidence, some facts.
Okay. So here's what we do. Here's what we do have, because
Poppy,
I heard your three. I heard your 3 points, and
Poppy, you're better than this. Let me finish my answer. Let me finish my answer.
Your third one is salient, and you said there have to be some facts, and I just want to note for our viewers facts that the Washington Post reported, which include therapist notes from 2012, which include a polygraph test. Yes.
Can I talk now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I need to see the facts. And while I respect and trust the media, all I have, are media reports. That's why we called the hearing. We met as a group day before yesterday. When I say we, I mean the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee. There was unanimity that we should reach out to Dr. Ford and her lawyer, our lawyers, and make that offer and start taking written statements. The minority staff under Senator Feinstein refused to cooperate, so our majority staff went forward. We didn't hear back from Dr. Ford's lawyers. So yesterday we met and said, okay, maybe she is concerned, she meaning Dr. Ford, about a public hearing. Mm-hmm. So we agreed to make the offer that, well, if you'd rather do it privately, that's your call. I would prefer to do it publicly because I think the American people have a right to hear both from Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh.
So
but if she wants to do it privately, but you've got to start somewhere, and to me, can I make one other point? You also have to put
I really want to get to Jim's important question, and we
Okay.
know you don't have all day, and that is the FBI. I mean,
should the FBI have a role? Because as you know, Senator Kennedy, the FBI can investigate this if the president asks them to, and there is precedent. During the Anita Hill investigation, President George Bush, a Republican, ordered the FBI to investigate her allegations at the time. They did so in 3 days and then reported back to the White House. Would that be, why isn't that a reasonable step for this president to take in light of how important this nomination is? And then, of course, it's a lifetime appointment to the court.
That's a fair question. I don't have the information to make that decision. I do have media reports. I think they all stem from the, I don't know a single senator, by the way, or a single reporter who's talked to Dr. Ford. I would like to talk to her. I've talked to Judge Kavanaugh yesterday, but I don't have enough information to say we ought to go forward. All I have are media reports. And I don't mean to disrespect the media. I do respect the media, but with all due respect, I've got to make an important decision here, and I'd like to hear from Dr. Ford and see some evidence.
You have to make a decision so important to the American people and future generations of American citizens that we are very interested in whether or not you believe there should be an FBI or an independent body investigation, a nonpartisan investigation. Are you comfortable voting on the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh without that? Yes or no?
No, I want to have a hearing Monday.
Well, that's not my question. That's not
Sure.
so that, I mean, you want to have a hearing Monday. I think it begs the question of what is the priority of the Senate Judiciary Committee? Is it to have a hearing and a vote on the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh before the Supreme Court term starts in October? Or is it to find out what the truth is? And to do that, to have an investigation, as Jim noted, we saw in '91 with Anita Hill. What's the priority of the committee and you, Senator?
Well, I can tell you, I'm sorry, can I?
Please, go ahead.
Can I go ahead? I can tell you what my priority is. My priority is fairness and the truth. I want to be fair to Dr. Ford, and I want to be fair to Judge Kavanaugh. The point I was going to make is that I think you have to put this in context. The confirmation hearing is over. Judge Kavanaugh testified for 32 hours. We had a private, confidential meeting, just the senators and Judge Kavanaugh afterwards, to talk about anything nobody wanted to bring up in the hearing. Senator Feinstein chose not to attend. That's her right. Then we had, I think, 48 hours to submit written questions. There were 1,200 written questions submitted, and I think those have all been answered. And then Senator Feinstein announced the letter. So we're at the end of the process.
But why? I mean, that's a self-selected end, Senator, respectfully. It is a self-selected end for a position, for a lifetime position on the highest court in the land. It is. The deadlines are set by Chairman Grassley.
Under normal procedure, what we would do when evidence or allegations come in after the hearing is completed, minority staff and majority staff would sit down with the person bringing forward the information and take statements. Now, they're not sworn, but if they don't tell the truth, it's a felony. And then those statements would be distributed to all members of the committee, the Judiciary Committee. We have been trying to do that in addition to offering a hearing. The minority staff, which Senator Feinstein controls, refuses to cooperate with us. So our majority, if I could just finish, our majority staff has been proceeding, and we've called the hearing. And to answer your question again, it's the best answer I can give, Poppy. It's because it's the truth. I don't have enough information to answer your question about whether we should go further. I think we ought to have a hearing, and I think there's a reasonable possibility, given her past behavior, that Dr. Ford will change her mind again.
I just have to, if you're fundamental, and again, I don't want to take too much of your time, but if you're fundamental...
No, I got all day.
Well, no, but if your fundamental complaint or shortcoming is that you don't have enough information, as a senator on the Judiciary Committee, can you vote on this nomination without hearing from Ford under oath, and frankly, from Kavanaugh as well under oath for his side of the story. Can you make that decision, a lifetime decision for this court, without getting that information, under oath testimony from Ford, before your committee?
Well, let me quibble with one thing you said, and it may be my fault, not yours, but I don't have enough firsthand information. I just have media reports, and while I trust our media, I'd prefer to go to the original source on something that's important.
Well, that's why I'm asking you, go to
Number
her,
two, to answer...
And you spoke to Kavanaugh on the phone.
Yeah. But let me answer, can I go?
Yep.
Sure.
Let me answer the original question. I'm going to cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm a lot more sanguine than, I can't read people's minds, but I'm a lot more sanguine than some. I think there still is a reasonable possibility, given that Dr. Ford has changed her mind a couple of times. I'm not criticizing her, that she will appear on Monday, and I hope she does. And if she doesn't appear, I'll get together with my colleagues. You can choose not to believe it, but we really are trying to be fair, and we'll talk about what to do next. That's the best answer I can give you right now, because things seem to be changing by the moment.
I think one of the
They are, no question.
One of the reasons we're asking is because hindsight is often 20/20, and there are lessons that many think should be learned from 1991, and should be learned from, for example, a number of witnesses that were going to testify for Anita Hill not being called to testify, right? So we're just trying to get at whether expediency and whether time and when this, what's more important?
What's more important? Is it the schedule, or is it getting, because you can argue, could you not, that an FBI investigation is not just in Ford's interest, but it's also in Kavanaugh's interest, right? Because he has an allegation hanging over his head, which he has denied repeatedly. Wouldn't it be in his interest as well to have a fulsome investigation for the possibility of clearing his name once and for all?
Well, the deadline, that's a good question. The deadline I'm interested in is October 1. I know some people have talked about the midterms, and look, I'm a politician, but I'm really not interested at this juncture in any more political or cultural combat. The deadline I've always been looking toward is October 1. And I'm going to go back to my original point. I sure hope Dr. Ford comes Monday. If she doesn't, it is her call. If she's nervous about doing it in a public hearing, we will do it private. Though I got to tell you, my opinion is that'd be a mistake. I think the American people need to hear from both.
Let's stay in touch.
I was just going to say,
let's keep up the conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, I did call Judge Kavanaugh yesterday because I wanted to hear it directly from him.
And what did he say to you? Just a point of fact as we wrap up here, because Orrin Hatch told CNN, Senator Orrin Hatch, that Kavanaugh said to Orrin Hatch, he wasn't at the party and, quote, somebody's mixed up. Did he say the same thing to you, Senator?
He didn't use the words mixed up. I would describe Judge Kavanaugh as resolute, determined, unequivocal. I mean, he didn't hedge. He said it's just not true. He wasn't angry, and he didn't say anything bad about Dr. Ford. He wasn't critical. I mean, he just, look, man, it's just not true. And I think that's what he's going to say when we have the hearing Monday. And don't give up on the hearing. Don't give up on the hearing. I think well, I'm not going to repeat myself.
No, I hear it. Listen, let's keep up the conversation because events are changing. We'll bring you back on if we have a new development because we'd love to get your views as this develops.
Thank you for all the time.
It's a difficult topic. Thank you for taking the hard questions, Senator Kennedy.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you for having me.
And as you mentioned earlier, we have the president who's going to possibly be speaking to reporters in just minutes as he heads out of the White House, departing in minutes for flood-ravaged North Carolina. Will he speak to reporters, and will he talk about Kavanaugh's nomination and Ford's allegations? We're on top of it. Also, the president is slamming his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, saying, and I quote the president here, "I have no Attorney General." So, I mean, what does this mean? What will Sessions say in response?
And Kim Jong-un is now vowing to close a key missile test facility if the U.S. agrees to corresponding actions. A big promise. Question is, can we trust North Korea to keep it? President Trump just leveled perhaps his most withering attack to date on his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions.
In an interview with The Hill, the president said, and I quote, these are his words, "I don't have an Attorney General. It's very sad." Let's go to our colleague Boris Sanchez. He's at the White House with more. Attacking the Attorney General is not new, but saying you don't have one, that he is in essence not functioning in his position, that's a whole new level.
That's right, Jim and Poppy. President Trump taking aim at his favorite appointed punching bag, Jeff Sessions, yet again, and this time going a step further. Previously, we'd heard President Trump attack Jeff Sessions for not going after the president's political opponents, for not shielding certain Republicans that are under investigation, and of course for recusing himself from the Russia investigation. This time, the president is deriding his Attorney General for his performance during his confirmation hearings and then tying that to his recusal from the Russia investigation. I want you to listen to this portion of this interview. The president saying, quote, "I'm so sad over Jeff Sessions because he came to me. He was the first senator that endorsed me, and he wanted to be Attorney General, and I didn't see it. And then he went through the nominating process, and he did very poorly. I mean, he was mixed up and confused, and people that worked for him, you know, a long time in the Senate were not nice to him, but he was giving very confusing answers that should have been easily answered, and that was a rough time for him." Again, the president then saying that perhaps that difficult confirmation process was part of the reason that Sessions ultimately recused himself from the Russia probe. We should point out the president also says that one of his closest allies on his hard immigration stance is making him unhappy at the border. That's a new criticism from President Trump toward Jeff Sessions. He was also asked about Sessions' future. As you know, Poppy and Jim, he's been attacking Jeff Sessions for more than a year now. He has yet to fire him. When he was asked, the president said, "We'll see what happens," though it's clear it would be an uphill battle for this White House to confirm a new Attorney General because Jeff Sessions is still well respected and often defended by those on Capitol Hill. Jim and Poppy.
I suppose the question is, does he want to fire him or does he want Jeff Sessions to leave on his own? Boris Sanchez at the White House, thanks very much. Also this morning, intelligence officials are working to redact the sensitive material about the ongoing Russia investigation that President Trump has demanded be declassified. Sarah Murray is in Washington. So another conflict here, I suppose you could say, between the intelligence agencies and the White House on this.
Well, certainly some tension. Remember, the president, issued this statement saying he wanted to see a number of these documents declassified, documents related to the FISA application for Carter Page, text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, text messages from James Comey related to the Russia investigation, as well as documents related to Bruce Orr, who is a Justice Department official who communicated with Christopher Steele, who assembled this dossier. So what's happening now is just because the president has put out a statement and said, "This is what I want," does not mean all of these documents automatically come out publicly, completely declassified. What we're going through now is this process where the Justice Department and the FBI are working with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And for some of these documents that have already been made public in part, they're going back and going over, versions of it that would have slightly fewer redactions. For these documents we haven't seen publicly, they're going to provide redacted versions to the Office of the White House Counsel. And from there could be more back and forth. The president could say, "Okay, this is sufficient for me, release these," or he could say, "I want more redactions," and then they could go back and sort of haggle back and forth a little bit. But I think the important thing to note is this is the sort of normal process that you would go through when a president orders something to be declassified like this, and it doesn't just happen automatically, Jim.
Sarah Murray, thanks very much. We do know the president is speaking on the White House lawn, and we're going to bring you those comments as soon as we have them in just a few moments.
And before that, a quick check of the markets this morning as they get set to open in just a few minutes. Futures pointing higher. For the most part, the S&P down just slightly there. Of course, all the focus on trade tension between the U.S. and China. We'll keep a close eye on the opening bell.
Before the Bell is brought to you by...
That very closely, tweeting about that as it comes. Again, just a reminder, the president has made comments on the White House lawn prior to his departure for the Carolinas, and we're expecting those comments to come in momentarily. I believe right now, do I have that right?
I think we have a few minutes before we get this. It's tape turn.
Okay.
Still waiting. Television. Let's bring in David Gergen and Jennifer Rogers for this. So Jennifer, just to you first, legally speaking, can the president order the FBI to take a look at this again, given these claims from Ms. Ford?
He can, certainly. And I think the issue really is, if anyone wants to get to the bottom of this for real, if they want the senators to have the most information they can have as they question Dr. Blasey Ford and as they question Judge Kavanaugh about this, then they should have an investigation. I mean, the FBI is good at this. They do cold cases all the time. They can, in a matter of probably days, figure out whether there's corroboration for Dr. Blasey Ford's account, and that will give everyone more information.
By, for example, subpoenaing Mark Judge, who has said, who she attests was in the room during the alleged attack, who has said through his lawyer he does not plan to speak before the Senate. The FBI could compel him.
They could speak to him, they would speak to the two principals, they would speak to anyone else who might have been there. They dig around, you know, this is what the FBI does. So the more information, the better, I think, as far as most people are concerned, and that's what the FBI would give the Senate.
David Gergen, politically, are the Republicans in a dangerous political spot here if they proceed with this vote without hearing from Ford? And granting the fact that they have given Ford this opportunity on Monday, she's not yet comfortable doing that. But are Republicans in political danger here if they keep to this timeline and say, listen, we gave her a chance, she didn't take that chance, we're going to go ahead and vote?
I think they're in serious danger of being seen as treating her unfairly. And the standard is going to be, was she treated fairly? Was Brett Kavanaugh treated fairly? Both people deserve that. And at this point, there's a lot of suspicion, in fact, a lot of anger among women, especially among suburban women who are already inflamed and want to come out at the polls in the midterms, that the whole process of finding these Supreme Court justices has been unfair from the beginning. First denying President Obama a chance to have his nominee. Then when the Kavanaugh hearings came up, the big document dump, just hours before the committee was to start. And now with this allegation, it seems to me, I would think that the Republicans, since they're confident Brett Kavanaugh is innocent, they would lean over backwards to be fair to her.
Let's hold that thought for a moment, because the tape of the president's comments just coming in now. Here they are. This was just moments ago.
So we're going to North Carolina. We'll then be heading South Carolina. We're doing very well there, but the rivers are cresting. They're just starting to crest. We're really just going to say hello to all of the folks from FEMA, the military, the people that are working so hard. And I think it'll be an incredible day. We'll be coming back at about 6 or 7 tonight. Say it? Well, it would seem that the FBI really doesn't do that. They've investigated about 6 times before, and it seems that they don't do that. Well, I would let the senators take their course. Let the senators do it. They're doing a very good job. They've given tremendous amounts of time. They've already postponed a major hearing. And really, they're hurting somebody's life very badly. And it's very unfair, I think, to, as you know, Justice Kavanaugh has been treated very, very tough. And his family, I think it's a very unfair thing, what's going on. So we'll see. But I do think this. They've given it a lot of time. They will continue to give it a lot of time. And really, it's up to the Senate. And I really rely on them. I think they're going to do a good job. I'd really want to see her. I really would want to see what she has to say. But I want to give it all the time they need. They've already given it time. They've delayed a major hearing. There's no more just about, look, when I first decided to run, everybody said the single most important thing you do is a Supreme Court justice, okay? We've all heard that many times about a president. I would say this. I think he's an extraordinary man. I think he's a man of great intellect, as I've been telling you, and he has an unblemished record. This is a very tough thing for him and his family. And we want to get it over with. At the same time, we want to give tremendous amounts of time. If she shows up, that would be wonderful. If she doesn't show up, that would be unfortunate. I'm disappointed in the Attorney General for numerous reasons, but we have an attorney general. I'm disappointed in the attorney general for many reasons, and you understand that. We are looking at lots of different things. I have a great cabinet. We have the greatest economy ever in the history of our country. So we're very happy with the way things are running, generally speaking. I don't think we've ever had an economy like this. Somebody was on just this morning from Reagan, from the Reagan White House. He said this is one of the great economies in history. So we're very happy. I can't hear you. Well, the FBI has been very involved with respect to Justice Kavanaugh. They know Justice Kavanaugh very well. They've investigated him, I guess, 6 times, and they've investigated him for this hearing. Look, if she shows up and makes a credible showing, that'll be very interesting, and we'll have to make a decision. But I can only say this. He is such an outstanding man. Very hard for me to imagine that anything happens. We had very good news from North Korea, South Korea. They met, and we had some great responses. I got a tremendous letter from Kim Jong-un. As you know, it was delivered 3 days ago. We're making tremendous progress with respect to North Korea. Prior to becoming president, it looked like we were going to war with North Korea, and now we have a lot of progress. We've gotten our prisoners back. We're getting our remains back. They continue to come in. A lot of tremendous things, but very importantly, no missile testing, no nuclear testing. Now they want to go and put a bid in for the Olympics. No, we have a lot of very good things going. Remember this, prior to my coming into office, a lot of people thought we were going, it was inevitable, we were going to war in North Korea. And now the relationships, I have to tell you, at least on a personal basis, they're very good. It's very much calmed down. Well, we'll see what he's looking at. We'll see. But in the meantime, we're talking. It's very calm. He's calm, I'm calm. So we'll see what happens. Okay? No, I'm not. I'm not, because if he's honest, and he is, I think he's going to tell, as long as he tells the truth, it's 100%. He was with Ronald Reagan. He was with Bob Dole. He was with McCain. He was with many, many people. That's what he did. Paul Manafort was with me for a short period of time. He did a good job. I was, very happy with the job he did. And I will tell you this, I believe that he will tell the truth. And if he tells the truth, no problem. I don't want to talk about it now. Because we want to be able to take what we can handle. Well, I'd have to see what she has to say. I've given her a lot of time. The Senate has given her a lot of time. We continue to give her a lot of time. We've held up the whole hearing. What I don't like is that Senator Feinstein had this letter for a period of like 3 months, from July, maybe even before that, but from July. Why didn't Senator Feinstein bring this up at her meeting with Judge Kavanaugh? Why didn't the Democrats? They knew about the letter because she was showing it to Democrats. Why did they wait till everything was finished and then bring it up? That doesn't look good. Thank you very much. I'll see you in North Carolina.
You've been listening to the president there, those comments just moments ago. Just briefly, some highlights, because there's a fair amount of news in this. First of all, on the question of whether the FBI should investigate Kavanaugh his accusers' allegations, he says that it wouldn't seem the FBI really does that. We're going to fact-check the president there. That's not true. There is precedent for that. If the president orders the FBI to investigate such an allegation, they can. Happen in 1991 with Anita Hill. That said, and this was interesting, the president said that he would like to, in effect, see Ford show up before the committee and tell her side of the story. And he said, if she shows up, if she tells a credible story, that would be very interesting, leaving open the possibility that that could affect his decision going forward. I think that's notable.
It is.
He also commented on comments reported just a brief time ago in an interview with The Hill that he no longer has an attorney general. He says that he is disappointed in the attorney general for many reasons, and he ended by saying he believes that Paul Manafort will tell the truth going forward. Listen, lots to digest there. We've got our panel here. We're going to go to break shortly, and we'll be right back.
He's an extraordinary man. I think he's a man of great intellect, as I've been telling you, and he has an unblemished record. This is a very tough thing for him and his family, and we want to get it over with. At the same time, we want to give tremendous amounts of time. If she shows up, that would be wonderful. If she doesn't show up, that would be unfortunate.
That is the president weighing in here on what the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to do when it comes to the claims against Judge Kavanaugh by Dr. Ford. Back with us, David Gergen, Jennifer Rogers. David Gergen, to you. You know, there are lessons. No matter where you fall on this, there are lessons from what happened with Anita Hill's testimony in 1991 that should be heeded for all parties here, correct?
Absolutely. Justice Thomas went to the court with a cloud over his head. It had not been dispelled by the process itself. It was not seen as fair to her, and therefore there was a lot of anger, and it I think affected his whole time as a justice. Think now if they ramrod this through so that Kavanaugh gets a vote. She never really is heard, and there's inadequate evidence, but they just say, no, the time is the most important thing. We'll have a second Supreme Court justice who will take his seat along with other men, and a Roe v. Wade is going to come before that group. We'll have two sitting justices who have been accused of sexual harassment, and it hasn't been cleared up before they take the bench. That is a situation I think most Americans would find to be extremely unfortunate, and that they will see the system as rigged.
Jennifer, listening to the president there, and this has been consistent with how he's handled this for the last several days, he did not close the door by any means to listening, to hearing the story from Ford. He left it open, and his words were striking. You know, if she shows up, presents a credible, I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but he did say if it's credible, that would be very interesting. Did you hear in there him saying, listen, if she gives a credible account in public, I might reconsider on Kavanaugh, or is that going too far?
I think it's going a little too far. What I heard is we're going to let her say her piece. We are not going to try to investigate this through the FBI or any other means of corroborating her. We'll let her say what she wants, and then the Senate will vote. So I wouldn't expect him to back off of it.
And to fact check the president, as I did before, he says it wouldn't seem the FBI does this. In fact, the FBI can do this if the president orders the FBI to do so.
Of course they can, and if you really want the truth, that's where you should go.
He orders the FBI to do something almost every other week. I mean, it was 10 days ago or so he ordered them to check out Anonymous.
I mean, you know, Anonymous, Hillary Clinton's private email server again, the Uranium One deal, you know, surveillance of the Trump campaign, as he calls it. I mean, the list goes on and on. Let's just talk about Judge Kavanaugh. The president said, and he said numerous times, he feels for his family. He said it's not, you know, fair what's going on for Judge Kavanaugh. In the interest of Judge Kavanaugh,
yes,
and if he is confirmed to the court, sitting on the high court on the bench for decades on end without a cloud, as you explained, that Clarence Thomas still, you know, bears every day. Isn't it in his interest to let time play out here?
It's very much in his interest.
But then
he's convinced he's innocent.
Say it's Monday or bust.
It would be helpful if Judge Kavanaugh came forward and said, I would prefer to have a background investigation by the FBI.
Yeah.
He would win a lot of points across the board if he did that. But I just think, look, and I think he has been through hell, but it would be nice, too, if the Republicans acknowledge what's going on with the woman, who was, after all, the alleged victim in all of this. She's had to move out of her home because of death threats. She's gotten all this vile stuff over the social media. You know, she has just been pummeled. She's sort of, you know, her life has been turned upside down. And now she's been told, you got about 3 or 4 days to get ready for
it's a
very
good point.
important.
The context of how she's faced with this decision, right?
Yes.
It's not just any day. She's got kids. She's had to move out of her house. Understandably, there's a lot that she's facing now as she's presented with this decision. Jennifer, David, thanks so much. A lot to process there. Coming up next on Korean Peninsula, ushering in an era without war, on paper at least. But it will take more than handshakes and photo ops to convince critics that North Korea this time is really serious about giving up its nukes.